Welcome then to stage from Pamplona to Hendaye. For those you're watching live in the afternoon, sorry we're running a bit late. The riders, I think, suffering after yesterday's phenomenal stage down to Pamplona. Started rather gently and slowly this morning on this 154-kilometre stage. That's nearly 100 miles of racing, which will take them right up to the coastline. The gap you can see, 28 seconds here between Steinhauser and a group of some 9 men chasing after him. None of the main contenders for the crown, I think, are too bothered at the moment and probably waiting for the big climbs we've got yet to come. And you can see only 45 seconds separating the 9 men from the main peloton, and Steinhauser sat there out on his own. This really has been the story of the race so far today, that we had Chiesa try to get away, and that was after, what, some 41 kilometres of racing, and he got himself caught. And the little mountain we had so far, the 3 fourth category climbs, were not sufficiently hard to split the field, and the results I'll give you in just a moment. There's the main pack, so you can see that they are fairly well all together. The yellow jersey near the front, keeping an eye on things, because although he's got a significant gap at the moment on general classification, 3 minutes and 59 seconds back to his teammate Ulrich. Richard Vironk hovering in third spot, 4 minutes and 25 seconds down. Well, Vironk's a great mountain climber, and if he wants to try and grab some of that time back, his real last opportunity will come on the 2 final climbs today. One after 88 kilometres at the Col d'Espoury, and then after 107 kilometres at the Puerto Oxtongo. That's the opportunity, I think, for him to try and just close the gap down on Ulrich, just ahead of him, to try and take second place. Wrong. He's in a polka dot jersey, so I think we might see him being quite active towards the back end of the race today. But it's a fairly flat run into the finish once we go to the top of the climb of the Puerto Oxtondo. That will be just with 47 kilometres left as they drop back into France, and then the run into the finish along the coast to finish at Hendaye. Lovely weather conditions today, and right on the beach. No time to go out there and take your Kiss Me Quick hats and your buckets and spades and dig yourself sandcastles. I think many will be happy to get to bed again early tonight after some fast and furious day's racing. I mean, yesterday really was a war of attrition. The last man coming in yesterday, absolutely looking rough after the stage, 262 kilometres. The last man in yesterday, Frattini, 45 minutes and 7 seconds down. Well, just hearing that we seem to have got a problem with the motorcycles, and we may only have helicopter photographs to bring you today. There was a crash yesterday. Actually, the photographer from L'Equipe, Patrick Boutreau, and his driver, well, they call him in France, his pilote, Jacques Garcier, they were injured yesterday when they had a crash on the descent to the Col de Soudet, and they think that it was something to do with the fact that Fernando Escartin, when he went round one of the corners, had some problems with the motorcycle, and that the 2 riders came crashing down onto the ground, and that I don't know what the damage was done to those two men. They've been taken off the hospital in Pamplona. They've got lots of cuts and bruises, but their tour's finished for them. But on the other hand, it doesn't look like they've got any badly broken bones or what have you. So that's the problem the motorcycle photographers have right down in the middle. They were the photographers taking the static pictures for L'Equipe, not the ones doing the shots we see on television. But it seems that somehow the motorcycle riders have decided that today they're going to have a day's strike, and it must have something to do with that one when the L'Equipe photographer was brought down. I don't suppose that in any way the cyclist Escartin would have anything to do with that. He might have been in the way. I mean, half the trouble is with the big motorcycles thundering round, the bike riders have got to stay in the group, stay on the wheels, and in a moment like that, I'm sure it wasn't done deliberately. So it looks as if we're going to have to do without the pictures from the sides of the riders. So keep your fingers crossed we can ID them from the air. And if I get a few mistakes, then please bear with me, because I know when I see the photographs or the pictures sometime getting back to England, and maybe a friend of mine will show me some recordings from the Stade or something. It's always amazing how the screens you've got at home show a lot more detail than our television monitors, which are usually a bit bleached out. I don't know why it is. The difference is when you're sat watching a television monitor on a commentary point, that it's always difficult. Of course, the other trouble is you get a lot of light as well from the sun and bleaching out the screens, but we'll do the best we can on this stage 18. Going up on the climb of this second category, Col d'Espagui. This little group have a lead now, approaching about 1.5 minutes. Patrick Jonker from the Once team in the pink colours. Christian Hen marking him out in the German national colours. Just keep an eye on this one on behalf of the Telecom team. Alonso's in there as well, Breukink for the Rabobank team, the white and orange colours. He's midway down the pack at the moment. Fedigato is in there. Voskamp, Salvato and Bartoli. And one other rider I should just ID for you in just a moment. The reason we can't get close to, as you can see on the screen now, the motorcycle cameramen are not covering the race today. They have fallen out with the organisation. They expected that Jean-Marie Leblanc would in fact have taken action and seriously, I think, reprimanded Alvaro Pino, the team manager of L'Equipe team. It has something to do with his rider, Fernando Escartin, and it appears that somehow the motorcycle came crashing down, and there's been a bit of a problem which has not been resolved at the start today. So the two people off the motorbike are in hospital in Pamplona. They've got lots of cuts. More information coming in. They're interviewing Roger Leger, by the way, who's the speaker on behalf of all the team managers, and it's just coming through here. He's repeating some of the things we've heard before, but about the solidarity now of the director sportis behind Alvaro Pino, who did not stop when the accident happened with the motorcyclists, nor it seems did he relay any information on any radio at all. Pino is the team manager of the Kelme team. He got Escartin away in that break. Well, What an eventful race we're having yet again. We can see this breakaway group of some 10 riders here. Breaking 1, 2, 3 back there. Jonker's doing all the work on the front at the moment. In there, the other riders, Alonso, Feligato, Voskamp, Bartoli, Salvato and Hen. And that looks like Bartoli might be distance at the back there on top of the Col d'Espugui. We'll give you more information as it comes through, but we're not getting information off the official motorcycles at all. There is a radio motorcycle out there transmitting some information, and Roger Leger in his car. Looks like Ellie's coming up to try and join them now. So we've got 2 MG riders. Here he comes now. So that's a good move by the MG team. They've got 2 minutes, but Breuking's on the front at the moment. Breukink, and alongside him Alonso from the team, the Benesto team. Pascal Hervé just behind. Then we've got man in the pink who'll be doing all the work. Jonker in the white. It's Hen, Feligato just in front of them. Very good move there. Breukink on the front of the man. Hervé looking very confident indeed. Just riding up so good. He did a good attempt yesterday. He's been very active all the way through this race, and the Festina once again putting a man up into the leading positions. Feligato for the Roslotto team, and the yellow just goes over the line there ahead of Breukink. Alonso, and now the time to regroup and go on the descent. I'm looking back through the crowd here to see if any more riders are trying to come up. They often get covered up by the team car. And it looks like one man is just behind. I'm not quite sure whether he's been distanced or whether he's trying to come up through the main pack and catch up with them. And it looks like Madros is trying to come across on his own now for the Motorola team. Again, 1 or 2 of the riders on the Motorola squad who are not very certain about their contracts. We're still waiting to hear the news from Jim Okovitz as to whether he's got a contract which will enable him to keep these riders next year. But as Jim says, it isn't until the ink's dry on the checks that he's going to say anything to the lads. So for Motorola, much depleted in their numbers, going over 1 minute and 4 seconds down. So Madwa over the top, and yet again you see Festina really want to throw men into this. That gives them 2 at the moment. Boskanin off the back of the group. And looking through here, you can see lots of Festina jerseys near the front. See another one there, looking for the polka dot jersey of Ronk. He won't be far through. Yes, he's right in the middle as well. Yellow jersey of Bjorn Rees on the right-hand side of your screen. Sorensen pouring water over his head at the moment, just to the right, even further across. The green jersey of the Kelmy colours, by the way. That's where all the trouble has started since that problem yesterday with the motorcycles falling off. Escart, I think, was slightly involved, and the team manager didn't stop. That's where all the dramas come from at the moment. That's as I see the story. Please forgive me if I got all the translations cracking over my headphones a little bit on the wrong side. But they've been interviewing Roger Leger in one of the cars following, and later on I think we're going to get a statement from Jean-Marie Leblanc as well, who's obviously got to try and calm this thing down a bit if the race is going to go on with the support that is so important to the race. Laurent looking very comfortable in the middle. He's really dominated this King of the Mountains competition this year. Let's look out for next year when he says he will not be too bothered about the polka dot jersey. There at the top of your screen, the camera's gone backwards. Indurain started right outside his house this morning, did the race in recognition. He's 5 times victor of the Tour de France. Just look at the faces of these riders. They've suffered in this race now, getting towards the back end, still riding their bikes, nearly 100 miles today, baking hot sunshine, coming up through Spain, across the Pyrenees, back into France, back into Spain, then back into France to finish at Hendaye. Leading group about 10 men down the road at the moment.
If I could reach.
Always for the fans.
...154 kilometres today, and the bunch seem to have lost interest in that 14-man group, which are drifting away further and further down the road, the gap opening up all the time. Piccoli, they've just called for the medical people to come up to Piccoli. I wonder if he's got a bit of stomach trouble or knee pain or what have you. And there's your gap at the top of this climb. So it is increasing all the way, that 12-man group that prize themselves off in dribs and drabs on the climb of the Col d'Espougy. When they went up the top of that one after 88 kilometres of racing, they'd opened up a gap on the main field about a minute and a half, and they've increased it ever since. And there, 7 minutes and 13 seconds is the gap. Back with our leaders. So, off the top of the climb, dropping down the other side, getting towards the flat part. They've actually come out of France back into Spain, and off the bottom of this climb is an unpronounceable place spelt D-A-N-T-X-A-R-I-N-E-A, Dantexiara, or Texiara, or I won't start again, Dant, and then they've got the TX in here, yeah, TX, Ariña. Well, that's the next place at the bottom of the climb, 117 kilometres into the race. The trouble is that we're in the part of the country that's been changing hands all the time. This is the Basque part of Spain also. When you get into France, it's a Basque part of France too, so you can get Basque speakers on both sides of the border. It's the most unusual language, which has no similarity to anything else anywhere. And we're now coming out of Miguel Indurain's home territory, out of Lano's home territory, and heading up country back into France eventually, when we're up to Bordeaux and up to Paris, and that's it. So quite an eventful trip, I think one could say. Well, that's. Will you like to pronounce it back at home? Good, have a shot. The problem, it seems, that we saw a little bit of sort of disturbance with one of the motorcyclists when the some of the Basques were waving their flags and tried to block the road yesterday, and there is some connection, I think, with that and the problems with the crash when the motorcycle rider and photographer from L'Equipe came up. I don't quite know what the connection is, but it seems to be that also made life difficult for the Pino, the team manager of the Kelmy team, in the problems that then beset when it came off. There are adios to Indurain. We move out of Spain and into France, across the border, and then we shall go up towards Danciaria, 118 kilometres covered. We'll be in France, and then up towards the sprint at Sarre, then turning, and then back in towards Hendaye. And if you just joined our program, or you're catching up with the recorded versions, highlighted versions, there was this strike today between the motorcycle riders because of the problems of the accident yesterday, which upended a motorbike and a photographer from L'Equipe. Looks like we've got a break going at the moment then. Yes, gone off the front for some reason, and that on this little bit of a drag has certainly put the cat amongst the pigeons. So it's Salvato from the Refin team that's gone away. Been twice a member of the Italian medal-winning World Team Time Trial squad, so he certainly knows how to motor, but it does seem strange that he's going to set off now with something like about 36 kilometres yet to go at Salvato. And this little group of riders here might leave him out there to roast unless somebody else has got other ideas about going across it. Now we are back with the main peloton here. As I say, we're getting erratic information because that certainly is Claudio Cipriani, certainly Fondriest in the main group, and this is our group of what was 14 men strong now without Salvato. Sorry about the picture problem we're having right now at the moment, but we're having to rely totally on the helicopters, balancing the signals to you without the motorcycles also taking part in our transmission today. So now it's 7 minutes and 20 seconds, the gap back to the main group, which includes Eli, Bartoli, Hervé, Breukink, Salvato, Peroni. In fact, Salvato's now clopped off the front. Perona, Jonker, Voskamp, Hen, Thibault Bascardin. Looks like Christian Hen's decided to do something about this and go after the escaping Salvato, try and pull him back. That group of 14 looked a bit unwieldy, and I think one or two tired legs in there, so perhaps he's done just the right thing, Hen. He was sitting back, and he may be given permission by his team manager to go off now and have a little bit of a go, because nobody in that group is any great threat to the overall yellow jersey. 119 kilometres covered now, so just 35 kilometres to go to the finish. The finish today has been used only twice in the past. The first time that we had the finish in Hendaye was in 1928, as we watch here, Alonso and one of the riders from MG, looks like Ellie probably going across there. Let me just tell you what happened in 1928. That was the year that Nicolas France of Luxembourg won the Tour de France. And what they do, they mixed up teams comprised of manufacturers' team, what they call tourist routiers. They were the sort of long, hard riding people. Here we are. We're going to listen to this now. I'll come back in a moment. This is the interview with Jean-Marie Leblanc about the problem with the motorcycle.
De votre intervention, et vous parliez de votre position par rapport à Alvaro Pignot, le directeur sportif de la Kelme, qui aurait donc hier fait tomber la moto de nos confrères de l'équipe. Alors, quelle est votre position en tant que directeur général du Tour par rapport à Alvaro Pignot?
Ma position, c'est que je ne peux pas souscrire immédiatement à la demande des photographes qui voulaient que j'exclue Alvaro Pignot de la course. J'ai été voir Alvaro Pignot, bien sûr, pour lui demander des explications. J'ai demandé aussi des explications à quelques-uns des témoins de l'accident, Walter Godefroth, un homme de la gendarmerie à moto. Et personne ne peut conclure à la responsabilité volontaire, à cet acte délibéré d'Alvaro Pignot. Et moi-même, je peux penser qu'un compagnon du Tour de France puisse projeter par terre à 100 à l'heure un autre compagnon du Tour de France. Alors il est certain qu'Alvaro Pignot a sans doute été nerveux, a sans doute commis une faute non intentionnelle, et il aurait dû surtout avoir le geste de prendre des nouvelles et de s'excuser le soir auprès des deux confrères qui sont allés quand même au sol et qui auraient pu avoir des conséquences plus graves. Je vais demander ce soir, et je pense qu'il va le faire, à Alvaro Pignot de venir voir le motard et son photographe, s'excuser. Je lui ai adressé tout à l'heure une sorte d'avertissement sévère, mais de là à exclure un directeur sportif sans d'autres preuves, je ne peux pas. J'ai une position médiane, si vous voulez, et j'espère que tout le monde comprendra qu'en cette fin de tour, il y a de la nervosité, les nerfs sont à vif, il y a de la fatigue, et qu'il ne faut pas que cette fin de tour soit ternie par cet incident qui, heureusement, n'a pas eu les conséquences gravissimes qu'on aurait pu craindre.
Alors, Jean-Marie Leblanc, il y a un instant, l'un des porte-parole des motards nous disait il faut que Jean-Marie Leblanc annonce qu'Alvaro Pignot ne peut pas suivre l'étape de demain, l'étape Hendaye-Bordeaux, qu'il soit exclu une journée, comme on l'a fait vis-à-vis d'autres motos ou d'autres pilotes voitures. Sinon, nous allons empêcher qu'il y ait un direct de télévision. C'est des propos tenus, qui vous ont été tenus il y a 2 minutes, Jean-Marie.
J'ai déjà indiqué tout de même au groupe des photographes que je ne pouvais pas comme ça exclure un homme sans être certain de sa culpabilité en toute conscience. Il y a quand même une présomption d'innocence à observer. Et ce n'est que si d'autres témoins m'avaient confirmé que Alvaro Pino avait fait une faute délibérée que j'aurais exclu Alvaro Pino. Mais en toute conscience, je ne peux pas le faire. Vis-à-vis du droit et de la justice, ça ne serait pas bien. Donc, avertissement sévère à Alvaro Pino, mot d'excuse ce soir, et j'espère une certaine concertation, conciliation à quelques jours de l'arrivée à Paris.
Well, back with you now. There's been messages flying backwards and forwards, and please forgive me if you walked in, just switched on your set and said, where's the sound gone? You phoned up your local band to say, hey, my sound's not working. The reason the sound's not been working is that there was an interview going on the screen, and then subsequently the sound went on after that, and in fact it's to do with the problem with that motorcycle crashing yesterday and putting the two in hospital, the driver and the photographer. We're going to take a short break actually, and what I'll do, I'll give you the inside information when we come back about what's going on the race with respect to the motorcycles and the authorities. Back with you soon. 14 riders. The last time check we had back to the main pack was 11 minutes. Well inside the last 25 kilometres to go on this stage into Hendaye. 154 kilometres in all, just under 100 miles of racing. Eric Breukink here, number 83 in the Rabobank colours. He's got his way back after having the misfortune to puncture, and he's now in this group here. Who've been jumping around quite a bit. Salvato tried to get away, and that's a fellow with his arm up now, but didn't get more than 40 seconds before he got closed down. Christian Hen, you see, just in the middle of your picture in the whitish coloured jersey, national champion of Germany. He's riding on the back of the pack, really, because his team leader is Bjorn Ries wearing the yellow jersey. And there he is, you see. So this main group aren't interested at all. There seems to be so many of the teams represented in that leading group of 14 men. And there the gap has grown, in fact, to 12 minutes and 22 seconds. So we saw Salvato drift off the back, and that was the reason. He's got himself a puncture. The Festina team won't do any chasing there at all as they go through that so-called sprint point. They're now, as you can see, 12.5 minutes down. They've got 26 kilometres to go, and the main field have no further interest in the stage victory today. Pascal Herbe jumping around here. I think with 14 riders here in the lead of 12:30, they've not any problem about being caught by the main pack, but they really want to split this one up, some of these riders. I think 14 or so is just too many to try and control. It's a rather tricky sort of run-in they've got today, but it's fairly flat. Oh, I'll say fairly flat. Let me give you exact details of the run-in towards the finish, because it was a little slight climb that we saw yesterday. There was a climb in the final 3 kilometres or so that had its effect on some of the riders, and we've got a similar little flick up towards the end today that might have an effect on the riders as they come in to the final running towards the finish. At 8.3 kilometres from the finish, we've got a little thing called the Côte de Soco, S-O-C-O-A, or Soca, and then it drops down to a 4.7 kilometres from the finish. Another sharp little rise which takes him up to 2 kilometres to finish. Then it drops down again to the red kite with 1 kilometre to go. So there's a couple of little conks ahead of these riders that might well provide a stepping stone for somebody to try and get away and open up a bit of a gap, because there's quite a lot of riders in here at the moment are going to find it, I think, a bit much when it comes to sprint. They want to thin it down just a bit if they can just do so. So in this group then, Eli, Bartoli, Hervé, Breukink, Salvato, Perona, Jonker, Voskamp, Hen, Thibault, Bascardin. And that was Eli we were just looking at the back. There, Jonker putting his hand down. I think he's probably just adjusting his Velcro fastenings, because some of them like to have the Velcro fastenings a little bit on the loose side. Well, the peloton's completely lost interest now, and then tighten them up getting towards the finish. And in fact, I was talking about 1930 when the Tour last came here. There was a little story I saw here which I thought you might be interested in, to do with Binder, and I can't see what the hell he did, but oh yes, Binder was the second-time world champion, and his name then went on to be put onto straps that you used to have toe tips and straps, and if you wanted a decent pair of straps, you used to get some Binder straps, and they were very famous for a long time. And he added his name to that little accessory, which is no longer with the racing fraternity, all on their clipless pedals. That was the year 1932 when Maurice Chevalier came back to Paris after a triumphant tour in the United States, and that was the year that Conan Doyle died, the founder of Sherlock Holmes, in the year 2 when Marlene Dietrich appeared in the Blue Angel. Oh, history coming out of here. Well, let's see who's going to have the history to win the stage today. The third time we've been into Hendaye for a finish. Nice big bay. I hope the cameras pick up, and we'll show you the waters. And I'm sorry about the problems we're having for those people that are watching live with the tennis. We're running over again. The riders, I think, decided to start a bit on the slow side this morning. And also see on the left-hand side where they're on now. This is a cycle path they're on here. You can see the little white cyclists are drawn on it. They're just about going over one of them there. Many towns now begin to put these white lines up and create a space around about 4 feet. There's one on the right hand side there, you just saw it, and it's to be applauded the way in which now, to create the feasibility of cyclists getting to and from work on bicycles, they're just making a little bit of space on the roads. White lines aren't always that significant, or they help anyway, but I prefer some of the stuff we saw up in Holland, for instance, where that extra yard and a half is made of red material. They put down a red surface, a red stone surface on top of the tarmac, and you actually not only have you got the white line, but you've got a little red surface as well, and they can clearly identify that. That's the place cyclists go, and motorists can't infiltrate and cross over to it. We're running along now the river Neville on the way in towards the town of Saint-Jean-Luz, and then they'll be turning in towards the finish. Two men out of that group of 14, slimmed down by the undulations alongside the rolling sea of the Atlantic, and this is the final sort of climb they've got this far out, but there's a short drop down and another little one, a neat little climb. I told you the Basques are still out in profusion, but today the victory could go either to the German on the front, Christian Hen, the champion of Germany, or the man behind, Voskamp. They've got enough lead at the moment. They just persist with this one, both of them riding very well indeed. And how dominant they've been so far, the Telecom team, in this race. We've got in general classification overall, the Telecom rider Bjorn Ries lying first in the yellow jersey, Ulrich in second spot at 3 minutes and 59 seconds, and Veronk third overall at 4:25. There'll be no change in that general classification, providing they all stay upright and nothing terrible happens back in the bunch there. So we're just looking now for a stage victory today. And I think the Telecom, certainly they've been pleased the way that Hen has ridden, and young Ulrich too. He didn't have quite such a good year last year. It appeared that he had some, well, I think he had got himself involved with a lady or something. Whatever it was, the story, he discovered the early part of this year when he went down with the virus and got some sort of flu that he would, in fact, put on weight. He went back to his old trainer, did Jan Ulrich, and started a very hard program to lose weight. And in fact, what his trainer was doing was taking him out on a moped, as now so the gap is 1:16, so there's no doubt about it that he's going to stay away from that little group, I think, the way it's going right now. But Peter Becker, the trainer a personal trainer of Jan Ullrich, was taking him out a 200-kilometre ride at a time. You imagine this, and all he gave him was 2 bottles of water here with 5 kilometres to go. Jan Ullrich, 2 bottles of water, no food, and he just rode him, and he just made him go harder and harder and harder, and he slimmed him down, and Ullrich now has been one of the revelations of the race. But here, as Voskamp goes through, Christian Hen on his wheel has ridden very hard for the Telecom, which have been the dominant team, and they're very happy, I think, to get him away here at the moment, because there's a battle going on between Telecom and Festina for the team award. And one of the Festina riders, Buscardini, is down in that group at the moment. That's the 3-man chasing group with Thibaut on the front. Well, he's moved over now. Let's put Ellie on the front, then Buscardin, and then Thibaut, and further back, the remnants of the breakaway group still struggling to try and catch him back. People like Pascal Hervé, Eric Brookings, Salvato, who punctured just at the wrong time when the whole thing exploded, Perona, Jonker, and Bartoli, the teammate of Ellie. Very appreciative holiday crowd here. You can see the picnic tables on the side of the road. Always a nice atmosphere on the side of the road in the Tour de France. And let's hope they can resolve the problems that stopped us having motorcycle cameras out on the road to begin with. So the gap now 1 minute and 5 seconds for the 2 leaders. So they really are rolling along here, looking like inside the final 5 kilometres. There are 4 kilometres to go for these riders, and this again is where we've got a slight little upward run until we get to the 2 kilometre point. This is going to make them struggle a bit. But a big, powerful action here that Henna's got. He's rolling round a gear, and this group behind certainly now, I think, have got to get some extra strength from somewhere. 4 kilometres to go. But everybody knows who rides a bike that you think you've got it absolutely stitched, and then suddenly... 22 seconds, in fact, back to this little group here. 22 seconds back to that 3-man group. I'm not quite sure where the minute time check went to. I presume that's what's left of the main group. Oh, sorry, the leading group. So 22 seconds back to 3 men, and the remnant about a minute back, and the main pack over 12 minutes back last time check we had. Power of this man on the front, Christian Hen, the German champion. Absolutely tremendous. 22 years of age, comes from Heidelberg in Germany. And Voskamp, another fairly seasoned rider, been around for some time. One minute 10 seconds back to the rest of the group. 22 seconds to the 3 men. 22 seconds to 3, and 1:05 to the remaining 9 men, or nearest 9 as makes no difference, that have been distanced by the sudden attack which Voskamp launched, and then quickly onto his wheel went Christian Hen, and they've opened up quite a useful gap now. Working very well indeed, these two. To think that there are 3 men behind, 2 in front. They haven't got the same amount of shelter when they relay. Well, Bart Voskamp only had 1 success last year, which is at Tübingen, which was just one of those criterium events. Two kilometres still. This now, they've got to keep rolling, these two, because they can't ease up at all, and it's going to be one of those long, drawn-out efforts, I think, to try and get this stage victory. Christian Hen in the Telecom colours, looking down his successes overall. He won the Sun Tour in 1994, when he also took a stage in that event. Won a stage in the Tour of Spain last year. Second place in the Paris Tour in 1992 was Christian Hen. Third overall on the Olympic Games in 1988. Very experienced men. So both these two very experienced riders indeed find themselves in a position to get their name up in lights at the victor of the stage. Well, Hen to me seems to be slightly the stronger when it comes to riding on these long turns on the front, but Bart Voskamp, has he got the ability to suddenly unleash a sprint? I think after this 1 kilometre sign point, we're likely to see that these two might well, that's it, they're concerned now about the followers. There's 1 minute 17 back to the main, 9 men left out of the 14, and just on 20 odd seconds back to the 3 men chasing. They cannot let up at all on here. They can't do much of the old track stands. They've got to keep this thing rolling to see who's going to get the stage victory. Voskamp also looks back over his shoulder. So when you look over his shoulder, if you're not careful, the man that you're riding with might take it in his head to go away. And Hen wants Voskamp to come through. Voskamp is in the best possible spot at the moment, lying second in the line here. So Bart Voskamp is nicely placed. Can he turn it into an advantage then? Voskamp looking for a success in the Tour. Christian Hen, probably the much more experienced of the two, but Voskamp is in the right spot at the moment. He's on the wheel. This is the way to be. Bart Voskamp doing just the right thing. They had to drive hard on this one. So the Dutch rider in second spot, the German rider Hen at the front, and still Hen can't get him off his wheel. Look at him looking up the finish line. He's right up against the Coca-Cola barriers on the right-hand side of your picture. Now they both unleash the sprint. Who's got the string lead? Voskamp's got a little bit of a go now. He's gone away off the wheel of Hen. Hen just couldn't explode like Voskamp does. So TVM get another stage victory. We started in Holland and we topped and tailed it with a victory for the Dutch rider Bart Voskamp and the TVM team from Holland. So we might have had a wet and windy start up in Zuid-Hertogenbosch, but now the sun is shining on the backs of a very happy Dutchman from the TVM team. Ellie launched a sprint for third spot with Thibaut alongside him, and Bascardin running out of steam. Third, fourth, and in fifth spot, Bascardin. Jonker on the front of this group. These men, part of the original 14 strong that set up the action on the Col d'Espagouide, hadn't been too hectic until we got there. But now Alonso on the left-hand side tries to switch away from them. Alonso still leading this one out all the way through. Has he got the power? He's opened a quite useful little gap then, Alonso. Pascal Hervé in the midst of this group then for Festina. That's certainly going to help them on the team award as Breukink switches out and comes over on the left-hand side. Alonso looks like he's blown his gasket, and Pascal Hervé starts to go on the far side. And suddenly Roslotto let go here. So Feligato starting to go for this one, and thump, 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 thump. Is he going to get it? Is he going to blow out of steam? Way! Yes, Feligato just ahead of Breukink, nearly mowing down the photographers just ahead of them. And Patrick Jonker just drifting over the line then, and they're just over a minute and a half down on the victorious Bart Voskamp.
Sailing special on Eurosport, man against the...
Bunch sprinting out then for the 15th spot. They're well down on the victor. I see Chris Borman in the background then coming in today. Survived the Alps, survived the Pyrenees, and here the crowd applauding the giants of the road. Those that are left from the 198 starters, and then Abdul Japarov on the left-hand side, practicing, I think, his sprint for tomorrow. Zabel on the centre there, Moncassin's in as well. We could see something just like this. Baldato throws his bike line. I think he might have just sniffed it ahead of Abdul Japarov, and that could be a little sort of teaser for tomorrow, because Bordeaux is always known as being a sprinter's paradise. The running is so flat, the big teams control it, they set their sprinters up, and now you can see how Abdel Japarov bounces his bike all over the place. In the centre is Baldato, and over on the far side throwing his bike at the line, I think that Zabel might have got it. Yes, Zabel, nuts whisker business between Abdel Japarov and Baldato. Don't want to try and decide which one that got it there as Moncassin comes over the line. And we're going to see all those four in action, I'm sure, tomorrow, if you'll join me, David Duffield, for that, because I think that's going to be another big sprint. So who could put their name on the roll call of honour on that occasion, I don't know. Here we go again. Zabel on the right. So powerful, this fella. And the Japarov, previous green jersey, Victor on the left-hand side. And Baldato coming quite good in the centre. Moncassin drifting across. And I think just behind him, it looks like Boronti or Panaria. 15, 16, 17, 18. But still, psychologically, the lads have got to get one up on the other. No problem for the green jersey to stay there with Zabel. Moncassin is nearest on the points classification, distance by at least a couple of positions. Nice view of the marina in the background, whilst it confirms what we've seen on the screen, with Voskamp coming in ahead of Hen, Ellie, Thibaut, Baskartin. They all escaped towards the end and drove it hard. Voskamp and Hen getting away from Ellie and the rest of them. You see right the way down now to the remainders of that breakaway group. But these two choosing just the right moment to get away. They couldn't let up in the sprint because that little chasing group coming up them behind meant if they just eased for one moment, they could be snaffled up. Oh, Bart Voskamp then adding the Tour de France stage victory today to his victory already that he achieved a couple of years ago in the Tour of Spain. Bjorn Ries, so confident in that yellow jersey. He's been showing us enormous strength all the way through. He's not wavered one iota. His team has been strong, and at 32 years of age he looks like he's at the peak of his profession. Spent many years riding with Italian teams, speaks good English, good Italian, good Spanish, and of course good what's it called, Danish, Denmark, what do you call the language? Danish, I suppose. Peace and quiet of the holidaymakers has been disrupted by the Tour de France today, coming in to finish at Hendaye. Only the third time we've finished here, and you can see we're going to come on then with the Mercedes Cup for Edberg versus Volkov, the third round after the presentation of the yellow jersey. Sorry if we delayed the tennis a little bit. Well, we do like to get the podium presentations on, and we had a few problems today with the riders running a bit slow to begin with. They accelerated towards the end, but the pressure was not put on the yellow jersey at all. He had all his problems yesterday to defend that jersey. He did it in magnificent style when he went away with 8 men, and we saw a tremendous exhibition of power. This Tour de France was said to be a climbers' tour, and certainly yesterday all the men that rolled into the top 8 place, except that man on the stage now, Rees, are what you might call traditional climbers. But no, he rolled on in with them, he stayed with them on the mountains, and then he encouraged them to drive on toward the finish. And when the race was first announced in Paris, he thought the climber might win the race this year. But still, it's just shown that a man who's got the strength to go up the climbs with the best of the mountain climbers can, in fact, to take that yellow jersey. He's done it yet again. He'll ride on then tomorrow into stage in Bordeaux in yellow. Ron Rees. Stage 19 then, this race covering 226 kilometres today from Hendaye to Bordeaux. The brunch rolling along here, not too politically concerned, I think, at the moment, because Bordeaux has been known as a sprinter's paradise, and today The course is, as you see it on your screen now, right from start to finish. I think they climb over one railway bridge somewhere. No, I'm exaggerating. They do in fact went up to a height of 75 metres above sea level, having started at 60 metres above sea level and dropped to 5 metres. So they went all of 70 metres up in the air, and that took all about 12 kilometres to do. So complete reversal of the days we've seen in the Pyrenees and in the Alps, when the riders have been clawing their way up the mountain sides, and the field has been split something like about 45 minutes from front to back. Here they are all together, no more than 40 seconds front to back, and there's going to be nothing to break the field up today unless somebody feels a bit excitable and jumping around. We've had one or two attempts to go down the road, but the sprinter specialists have sent their men out to mark the move and make sure that the thing's kept as you see it now, and that's how it's likely to be for the next couple of hours. So we will update you as the riders are stopping with natural breaks down there. First of all, the little break we did have to begin with after the 14 kilometres. Garmendia, Mauri, Bolts, Yarman, Baskarin, Hervé, Ekimov, Sorensen, Simon, Boronti, Chiappucci, Zen, Chamil, Sunderland, Vidal, Piccoli and Talmont. They all managed to get away and grab about a 30-second lead. But on roads like this, you could almost chuck a bottle of Coca-Cola from the bunch to the break over 30 seconds. It's just so straight, so easy, and they soon got swallowed up after they'd done something like about 40 kilometres. The gap came down, and the TVM and Telecom came rocketing after them, and bit by bit they finally made the junction at some 49 kilometres. So that was about 35 kilometres when we did get a bit of a break going, but never gaining much more than half a minute. It was, I suppose, of academic interest, but certainly did show that one or two people had hoped they could prize themselves away before the sprinter teams began to put the lid on things, and certainly with TVM looking for a stage victory for Blijlevens and Telecom looking for another stage victory for Zabel. They were very active in pulling back the breakaway, and that was that. And I think really with 17 men in that break, it was just a bit too big for them to really work together and get away. Looking at the pictures now, by the way, with the motor on in front, on the left-hand side of your screen is Chris Boardman, just getting out the saddle at the moment. Chris has lasted so far, and certainly I think he'd be happy to ride himself comfortably in the field today, and if he's got any strength left in his legs, have a real good go at the time trial tomorrow, 62 kilometres as such, just to see how he's come through the mountains. He's way down on general classification right now, but he's served his apprenticeship. He's gone right the way through the Tour de France, given that he's going to last today, tomorrow the time trial, and the final day in Paris. And there's no reason he shouldn't do that. He's lying 43rd on general classification, Chris Boardman, 1 hour 27 minutes and 33 seconds down. He's in quite useful company though. There's some excellent riders around about him, like Taffy, for instance, a very hard rider in 47th spot, Pascal Richard 48th, and just ahead of Chris Boardman, people like Pascal Hervé and Chave, even Malcolm Mauri is 39th, the past winner of the Tour of Spain. So you can see that Chris is in very good company. Mentioning Pascal Hervé, and there right on your screen is a man who has in fact said that he's got stronger as the race has gone on. If it lasted 6 weeks, he'd finish up in the top 5. Well, that's a bold thing to say when you're 41st overall, I suppose, but he's getting better all the time, and that's what makes some of these riders more specialists at stage racing than the single-day classic fellow. That fellow Rees you're looking at down there in the yellow jersey, he has always been best in tours. He's not a single-day classic man. I suppose if he put his mind to it, he's been showing the strength in the race so far that he perhaps could go for a single-day classic if he really chose to do so. But generally speaking, he likes to ride himself into form in the tours and then put the hammer down when everybody else is beginning to feel a little bit tired and struggling. They're on your screen now, 75 kilometres to go. So that's just inside 50 miles. They set off at quite a fast clip this morning with that little group of 17 men getting a half a minute lead on the field. They covered something like about 44 kilometres in the first hour. That's around about 27.5 miles an hour. So the early action pulled the bunch along fairly quickly. But right now, it's the speed's gone off it just a bit. But we should be going up on schedule. I think we're still ahead of 40 kilometres an hour. So it's still a little bit over 25 miles an hour, although it may not seem to be if you look down there on your screen. So whilst we're getting the shots, a big bunch here together, the rest of the news then after kilometre 68. Again, one or two people jumping around the front, Bartoli, Vanzella, Rooks and Fondrest, but it didn't take long in the heat and urged on by the massive crowd for them to slide back inside. And at the 83 kilometre point, we had a sprint, the PMU sprint, and Zabel got that ahead of Moncassin. Baldato was in third spot, and the second sprint today will be 15 kilometres from the finish. Alongside the quay at the edge of the La Garonne, and then straight into the finish on the quay de Louis the 18th. The twists and turns at the moment will certainly help these two riders here. The gap down to 29 seconds. Walters has been really riding hard at the front. Talman for the Aubervilliers Peugeot team. He started first of all. Mark Walters of Lotto went across to get it. Flick round, flick back, flick out again. This will disturb the chase behind. As they accelerate out, the gaps will open up. They'll have to settle back with the rhythm. A little more breathing space then for Talman and Walters. Talman on the front. He started the break down the road, what, about 30 odd kilometres out from the finish. So they've had a good 20 plus kilometres away on their own. The maximum lead was just over 2 minutes, and now the gap is coming down, tantalising. The bunch could just about see them on the straight road. When they twist and turn into little narrow lanes, then they're out of sight and maybe out of mind. But everybody knows here what they've got to do. 25 seconds it is, the gap back to the main group. Honours have been so evenly shared amongst the sprinters so far. Zabel having had a couple of stages. Abdul-Jabbar's had one. Moncassin's had one. Baldato so far has been hovering, always around about 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th for MG. He hasn't managed to score a stage success yet in the sprint. So it may be that today he can come good, but on the long flat stage run in, then people like Blyleven's has also got a stage victory. They'd like to come good. And all those names you watched, we've seen them on television on the flat parts of the country. They're all still in the race at the moment, but the big sprinter specialist who's not in the race any longer, who's now gone back out saying he was sick, he had some stomach trouble, he got his stage victory, whereas Mario Cipollini, he's not with us now. Climbed off his bike early on in the race, didn't haul his tired body over the top of the big mountain, so the Psycho team were just ridden in with no real ambition in life, Cipollini having retired on stage 5. "21 seconds to go, 21 agonising seconds separating Walters and Talman from this bunch here. I wonder when the time will come when, once again, as we used to do when watching Barry Hoban move into the position with the big group like this to wet his lips and look for a stage victory, when he managed to get, what was either 7 or 8 stage victories in the Tour de France. Sometimes since we had a sprinter Roman like that in the Tour. Malcolm Elliott was a great sprinter Roman who took the points jersey in the Tour of Spain. Never came quite so good in the Tour de France. Perhaps young Jeremy Hunt, who's riding with the Benesto team now, who's being nurtured and brought on as a Roman sprinter, might be somebody we could be looking for in a bunch like this, maybe next year or the year afterwards. 16 seconds it is. They daren't look round over the shoulders, these two riders, as the gap is coming down all the time. If and when that big bunch catches them, and it looks like it might happen now, then watch again for the attacks that may well come from the Rabobank team. They haven't aided the chase at all. We've seen that before once the group gets back the breakaways, and suddenly people like the Rabobank riders who haven't got a real in-depth sprinter Roman, they'll fire off something like Ekimov, and then they'll be firing off someone like Bogart. They've got people who've got stage victories. Bogart's got one already. Sorensen's got one for Rabobank already. They're the sort of teams that wait, I suppose, I should say like vultures, waiting for the moment of death when suddenly these two get caught and the other lot sit back, and the sprinters think, okay, it's up to us now just to position ourselves, and suddenly whang, one of these riders who haven't got much chance in the sprint, like Ekimov, like Bogart, will suddenly go. And here we go now. This could be one of the teams that is not contested the chase down, coming across. This is typical tactics, and will then go straight through and straight out the other side. And what do I say? Yes, 10 out of 10. It's one of the Rabobank riders. I could have written the script. I didn't. There's no script here. I just thought that would like it to happen, and they've done it yet again. The tactics of these teams, they've all got their strengths and weaknesses. They know how to produce the trump cards when they need it, and there they go. But now he's been absorbed. So they're all back together again now, inside 5 kilometres to go. This looks like it's going to be an eyeballs out sprint finish for today's stage. With the bunch all together then on this stage 19 of the Tour de France, Hendaye to Bordeaux. The last but one occasion when the sprinters can have their moment of glory. They'll also be looking forward to the stage into Paris on Sunday, when I hope lots of Brits are going to come over and cheer Chris Bourman, who's dragged his tired body over the big mountains and maybe looking for a good ride in the time trial tomorrow. Who knows? But now it's all down to who's going to get the stage victory inside 5 kilometres. This looks to me like it might be Fondres going for it. The smooth pedalling rider from the Roslado team. They haven't had a stage victory yet, and they've got to start launching rather left, right and centre to try and get away, and Rabobank's gone with them as well. That's good tactics then, but look at TVM after them. Like fleas onto a dog's back. Pow! They suddenly leap as they go past to close that gap down, and inside 4 kilometres to go now. Snaking all over the place, the TVM riders, the Telecom riders will do nothing but just try and mark every move, as you just saw then. They'll go on the front, just keep the pace up. The two of the TVM riders, that's Martin Dembaka back in second spot. So yet again, the TVM doing a tremendous job here. Blylemans is a man they're looking for to try and get the stage victory. He's a diminutive little figure, not one of your big muscle lads with thighs like tree trunks. He's quite a whippy little lad, and he'll hide in there and pop out just the right moment. After time, you can't see him. Keep your fingers crossed that we don't have anybody burying themselves into the barriers today. TVM, look, the riders are dropping back now. They're tired. They've done their chasing. They've absolutely blown a gasket to stay away at the front, and now they've eased back. And it's then, this is a chance when the top men at the front are beginning to lose the shelter for somebody else to have another go. And there we have yet another one rocketing off the front. But they're told it really twists and turns into the finish today. And this is one of the sharp bends they've got to contend with. Let's hope they all get round safely. That sharp left-hander, the Place de la Victoire. Who's going to get the victoire today? Again, TVM blocking off the front. Steinhauser doing a great job in the red for the Refin team. Lying second in the string. Rabobank still poised. They've got 2 men there, about 6th or 7th back from the front. There, the green jersey, Isabel on the far right-hand side. He's some way out yet, but they've got about another kilometre to sort themselves out and come through. And that looks like Christian Henson. He popped up in the middle for Telecom. He's been lying back in the bunch, getting his breath back. Now it's his turn to come through and defend Zabel's position. The blue and white jerseys, that's the MG Technogym team. There are 3 of them there trying to set it up for Baldato, who has not got a stage victory yet. And Baldato would prefer a somewhat longer sprint. He's not one of your short, explosive type riders. So they're trying to launch him, I think, off into space as one by one the lead-out men pull off the front. And it's on these turns, by the way, when the gaps open up and the tired riders are there, that it gives an opportunity again for people like the Rabobank lads lying in wait there to take the chance. So that's why MG Technogym have got 3 men on the front, 2 of them the lead out, and the other man will be Baldato sitting on the wheel. Such precision these riders have, hounding down the breakaway and then holding the speed at the front. You can't afford, as looks like Moncassin in the blue, in the white coming through now. One of the Gan riders is roaring off the front here at the moment. Is that Boardman? I think it was like the Marchand, it wouldn't sort of mind. Chris can sprint in the Paris-Nice. He went extremely well. Moncassin is their sprinter roadman. I would have thought Chris would expose himself to this sort of thing right now, and more like Le Marchand might have gone through with. Moncassin will be riding very casually in that, and now inside 1 kilometre to go. They turn very sharp left now, and now they're alongside the edge of the River Garonne. It's all a long straight run down into the finish, all the way, and yet again could be Yekimov going this time. Typical tactics inside the final kilometre. Hen is after him at the moment. Hen's legs must be tired from yesterday when he went away with Voskamp toward the finish. So Lotto into second spot at the moment. And Carrera, this is surprising coming through. There must be some very tired legs. Zabel, though, is still there in the green. Abdul Japarov looks over his shoulder. He's got Zabel on his wheel. Moncassin's on Zabel's wheel. They set it up properly as round the slow-moving rider goes. Abdul Japarov starts to roar away here. Abdul's gone for a long one, much further out than normal. And suddenly Baldato is onto his wheel. Abdul Japarov now has got Baldato, has gone past him, and Zabel is in the green. Baldato's still leading through here. Moncassin on the right-hand side. Moncassin throws his bike at the line. Now, did he get that one? Moncassin came from nowhere, went over on the extreme right-hand side, and it looked like he might have just got it. Let's look at it again. Moncassin comes very late as Baldato goes through. Abdul Japarov comes off his wheel in the pinky colours. Baldato in the blue and white is on the front. Then Zabel in the green starts to force his way through past the rocking Abdul Japarov. Moncassin has been on the wheel of Zabel all the way through. Abdul Japarov gets slightly closed in, and then as they get close to the line, Moncassin throws his bike there, and he gets it by about half a wheel. That's the punch the sprinters have. It's the ability to just only jump your bike half a length. Fantastic. I've seen people like Reg Harris do that on the track. You don't often see it on the road. Moncassin just picked his bike up and threw it at the line to take the stage victory in Bordeaux for Gann and France. Great ride, great finish. The stage 19 won by the French rider Moncassin with an absolutely scintillating sprint. One man I was looking for whose team worked so hard to put him in the right place, the right time, TVM as Blijlevens, just didn't show here at all. And if we see the slow motion action replay from the front again, you can see his team, one of his teammates, looking back and say, where the hell are you? We worked our butts off for you. And this Frenchman's going through with the German and the Italian and the Abdul Japarov. And you're nowhere. Well, we'll find out what happened. I hope that I didn't puncture or fall off or something. But Moncassin gets it from Zabel, and into third spot, Baldato. Let's look again. In the centre, look the red hat looking up over the back. I don't think that's Blijlevens. He's a smaller bloke there, but I saw one of the TVM chaps look round as if to say, where have you got to? And he's freewheeling as well, the TVM rider, so we wouldn't expect that from Blijlevens. As Gann scored yet another success. There are then Bordeaux. It's actually 100 kilometres from the Atlantic as a seaport, and of course with a very wide river going out here, the Garonne down to the Atlantic. It's a splendid gateway to the heart of old Bordeaux to come down the river, and alongside its banks and further inland, those vast and very famous vineyards. They're very emotional and happy. Moncassin comes forward to receive the applaud of the crowd, and looking back in the list of sprinters that have won here in we've got to go back to Esclassin. Esclassin in 1977 or 1982, Villemian. The French have not been successful here now for many, many years. It's been very much a speciality of the people from Belgium and Holland and places like that. So French have got a victory in Bordeaux. They'll be pleased with this one. The 75th time the race has been into Bordeaux, and it goes to Moncassin of the Gann team. Some recompense really topping and tailing the Tour de France for the Gann team. Moncassin taking that one ahead of the riders you see on your screen there. Moncassin taking stage one. There's one more big victory, of course, that he would like to have. That's in the Champs-Élysées on Sunday, when we're going to see a sprint finish, probably very similar to this one. The gun team had a stage success there already when Senna has popped out from the pack and taken the victory, but Moncassin it is, as we're now getting toward the back end of the race, that's got another success for them. They started so well, the gun team. Moncassin taking the yellow jersey on stage 4 with his good placings in the bunch, and then after also having the green jersey, the yellow jersey went over to Stefan Hulo, who kept it for 3 days until he really began to struggle on the mountain up to Les Arcs with his bad knee, and had to hand it over to Berzin, who kept it for 2 days until this man Rees just trounced everybody on the ride up to Sestriere, just 46 kilometres. He came out of the pack just like a bullet from the gun on that day, which was upset by so much snow on the big climbs, the Uzaran and the Galibier, the shortened stage. He still showed his strength, and we all thought, well, was that just a flash in the pan? He proved it not to be a flash in the pan. He's controlled the race from then on, not only controlled it by riding on the wheels and watching his main adversaries. Rees has also attacked and attacked, and we saw that wonderful attack that he took on the stage down into Pamplona when he took 7 mountain climbers with him and drove them to the finish, and really hammered home to everybody that he was the man who's going to take that yellow jersey into Paris, and he's got just 2 more days to go before the crowd on the Champs-Élysées will show their applause. I'm sure the place is going to be packed out with the Danish supporters. Yet another little lion for Thomas and Jesper back at home. Well, I suppose by now they're packing their bags and making their way down to Paris, complete with all the rest of the family. And let's look again. Where was Blylemans? There's a TVM rider in the midst. So that might have been him. And that's your overall general classification, set to go into the time trial tomorrow. 62 kilometres, some of those positions could change as the time trial has come through, but not more than 1 or 2 places. Zabel looked for a stage victory today, but it was not to be. He's already had a couple of victories, stage 3, and again on stage 10. He's in the green jersey. He'll ride round the time trial tomorrow, not in any way interested in the overall classification as far as he's concerned, just keeping that green jersey on his shoulder and perhaps trying to get the final fling into the Champs-Élysées on Sunday. So the stage is set then for the time trial tomorrow. Those gaps, the odd minutes here and there, could be that 1 or 2 riders can jostle positions, but the big thing is, can Indurain come back and show his strength and get that time trial tomorrow? Because normally in the time trial, the top 3 people are vying for honours, and I just don't see that the gap is sufficient for Ulrich to catch Rees, who's an extremely good time trial. Rees would like, I think, to get the time trial to show that he is king of the pile, but as we watch the green jersey here being given to Zabel and look forward to tomorrow, we've got some racing, some excellent racing still to come, but will this man take the final stage in the Champs-Élysées on Sunday? Certainly he won't be there winning the time trial tomorrow. That could be Rees, it could be Indurain, it could be Alano, and I wonder what Chris Bourbon might do as well, as to whether he's taking a sheltered day today, if he's got enough strength to come back over 62 kilometres, because recovery is the name of the game. These riders now have ridden over 2,000 miles of racing, and they have to recover, come back the next day and ride their hearts out, like they've done today. Today was the day for the sprinters, tomorrow the day for the time trials, but this lot will be back in action on Sunday, and I presume some of you will come and join us on the Champs-Élysées to see if Moncassin can get the final stage in France after a very successful tour. So he's got 2 victories, he looks for a hat-trick. Zabel's got 2 victories, he'll be looking for a hat-trick too. That's going to be a great day, but tomorrow, well, the time trial is something else. Another kettle of fish, as they say. Not trouble today, Richard Bronk. The highest climb we went over was all of 75 metres high, which is just nothing at all in the road. It was so flat that you could almost just ridden the whole race on 1 gear from start to finish, except of course in the sprint when the boys were in their big rings and their small sprockets at the back. So that yellow jersey again tomorrow on the time trial. No King of the Mountains competition as far as he's concerned. That's his all the way through to Paris, and he's worked hard for it. That's his 3rd King of the Mountains jersey that he's collected. He's got the hat-trick, his triple, and he may be going next year for a position in the yellow classification, he said. He's lying 3rd overall in general classification. He's got to ride hard tomorrow to keep that that third spot and to keep it into Paris, but let's hope he does it. He's given us a lot to talk about, so enthusiastic up in the mountains, but today was a day of the sprinters, a day when Moncassin got yet his second victory, and we're going to say bye-bye to you from Bordeaux, myself, David Duffield, looking forward to accompanying the time trial tomorrow and again on Sunday from France and the Tour. Bye-bye. Good afternoon to you watching the live programme from Bordeaux on the stage, Bordeaux Saint-Emilion. You're now seeing Tony Rominger get underway. So bonjour à tous. Today going to be very exciting in more ways than one. Not only will we have Rees going off last to defend his yellow jersey, we've got men with revenge on mind, as some of those riders who should have been up in the top 3 places are going to do something today to prove that they have the form in their legs to stamp their authority on this time trial. The man you saw depart from the start house, Tony Rominger, he has left 3 minutes after Miguel Indurain, who received a hero's send-off. You'd have thought that Big Mig was in yellow, the way the crowd at Bordeaux said, bade him goodbye. The one we're waiting for, Chris Boardman's coming in now. He's been setting the fastest times all the way along. At the 52-kilometre time check, he was 2 minutes 10 seconds up on Fondries, the fastest we got so far, and Boardman is going to decimate Fondries' time. Chris said he would really give this event today a lot of stick, and to see how he could go after coming through the mountains. And there he's got into lead, 1:18 exactly. The world champion when it comes to this sort of discipline, pursuiter par excellence, British champion at 25 and 50 miles, our record holder, Chris Boardman, taking the lead for the 63.5 kilometres, 1 hour, 18 minutes exactly. And there is the board for you to see that, in fact, Berzin is going 16 seconds faster at the time check at 24 kilometres. Another man, Berzin, who's got to have something to prove. Berzin was a rider who won the uphill, well, up mountain time trial, to be more precise, that we had on stage 8 from Bourg-Saint-Maurice to Val d'Isère. On that 30.5 kilometre ride, an average speed of 35 kilometres per hour. That's just over 20 miles an hour. He covered the distance in 51 minutes and 53 seconds, Berzin. Chris Boardman was in 9th spot, 2 minutes and 30 seconds down on the flying Russian, who took the yellow jersey. Bjorn Rees finishing second, 35 seconds behind. Olano third, 45 seconds behind. And this man Olano then third on the mountain time trial. The reigning world champion. And there he goes, lying at the moment in 9th spot in general classification, 11 minutes and 12 seconds down. But as far as Olano's concerned, he's got that personal battle against Rominger, Indurain and Bjorn Rees, and of course Chris Boardman and Benji Berzin. Normally when we get a time trial toward the back end of the Tour de France, it becomes a bit of a foregone conclusion in recent years. We've had Indurain dominating the proceedings. He goes into the last time trial wearing the yellow jersey. The question is who's going to be second. And the trouble with the time trial as well, that many of the riders who are further down the classification are a bit tired and they just roll round and don't bust a gut to do it. But today there's still little gaps to be closed up, and now we're looking at Jeske Skibby coming in at this point at 40.7 kilometres. Yesterday, the TVM team rode their socks off to try and get a victory to Blijlevens. Skibby was one of those who absolutely dominated the proceedings, riding hard on the front, and in the end, when they came down the finishing straight, we saw it on Eurosport. I was looking for Blythermans, and I saw TVM man look back over his shoulder in a very disconcerted way. Well, Blythermans finished in 15th spot yesterday, and the TVM, despite the work they did, had nothing to show for it. And just shows you how it knocks hell out of you. The last man, well, TVM had 125th place, Den Bakker, and then Van Petegem at 126th in 52nd spot. And Voskamp, the other TVM rider, had been driving hard, was actually dropped off the back. 1 minute 43 seconds he came in last, but won because Tomant, who tried a long break some 30 kilometres out in the village, he was last yesterday, 1 minute and 43 seconds down. So how to tumble from top to bottom after the work you've been doing during the day was very evident yesterday on the run into the finish at Bordeaux. This man more at home in the mountains, Luc Leblanc, winner of that stage into Les Arcs, when Indurain suddenly, with about 6 or 7 kilometres to go from the finish, lost the pace, dropped off the back, and the race became wide open. Leblanc, who worked out that if he had not fallen off those 2 times and took the time away he lost when he fell off on the first couple of stages, he would have been up there battling for the yellow jersey. But you never know the tactics, you never know the watchful eye of Bjorn Ries had this man Leblanc been near him. But nevertheless, Leblanc showed his strength and supremacy in the mountains. He's come back virtually from the dead. He had a bad year last year as the reigning world champion, when his sponsor just packed up and took the money away from them, and he went off to have an operation on his bad back, and now Leblanc is back. Here we are then. Fernandez Jeans, not the world's greatest time trialist, I would suspect. He is the reigning, or the current champion of Spain on the road. It's intriguing to see that Colnago, who for years has experimented with carbon fibre but preferred to go to steel frames for time trialling, and particularly that lovely steel frame he made for Tony Rominger for the hour record holder, has now produced this low-profile bike for the Mapei team. Lely on his way through. Fondress at this particular point lying second to Chris Boardman. He's certainly not going to challenge Chris Boardman, Lely, at the moment, unless he comes really good toward the back end. The finishing order at the moment, Chris Boardman is the best. Time 1:18.00. Intriguing watching the Psycho rider coming through now, by the way. There was a race in Germany yesterday where Mario Cipollini rode in the race, and in fact the first 3 or 4 places were all occupied by riders who had retired from the Tour de France, and one of the finishers also was Brunel. Now, I'm not quite sure what the rules and regulations are about when you retire from the Tour, about your opportunities of riding in other races whilst the Tour is on, but certainly the race in Germany attracted a lot of riders, perhaps trying to fine-tune themselves for Atlanta. Ugrumov, not perhaps the world's greatest time trialist when it comes to riding on the flat. Prefers when the road goes uphill. He had a slow start to the Tour this year, Ugrumov. Wasn't on form by the time we had the time trial from Bourg-Saint-Maurice to Val d'Isère, when he finished back in 17th spot, 3 minutes 45 seconds down on Berzin. Both Berzin and Ugrumov had been teammates. First of all, in the old days as a Russian squad, and then later on when they went to the Gavis team. There's been no love lost between them. They split now into different teams. But Ugrumov had a very slow start to the Tour. He's moving himself slowly but surely up the classification, and coming into the final day today of the last but one day, he's in 7th spot, 7 minutes and 48 seconds down on Bjorn Ries in the yellow jersey. And of course, this man Ugramov was one of those riders that benefited from the driving break. Ugramov 7:48. Escartin is ahead of him on general classification, 7:23. I think that Escartin is probably the slightly better time trialist. I can't see Ugramov going up the classification, but the split between Ugramov and LeBlanc at the moment is only some less than 20 seconds. So in fact, it may be that LeBlanc could take Ugramov's 7th spot. So Zola coming along here at the moment. What a disappointing tour he's had so far. And here at the 40-kilometre point, he romped round the opening time trial, the prologue at Hertogenbosch, and took the yellow jersey by a slender couple of seconds from Chris Boardman. And now with the sun beating down on his back here, we might see him attempting to get yet another first place, but somehow I think the distance might tell against him. Zola then 1:57 down at the 40-kilometre point. The fastest times have been set first of all by Boardman, and now Berzin is beginning to hound Boardman's time. And certainly at 24 kilometres, Berzin was 16 seconds faster than Chris Boardman. I don't think you hear that roaring sound, by the way. You see, many of these riders preferring a complete disc wheel at the back. This is a fairly flat course today, just one slight undulation at the Côte de Saint-Étienne, where they got for about 1 kilometre. Here we are, Mauri 1:20.07. Look at that gap that Boardman's created so far. Mauri 2 minutes down on Chris Boardman, and that fellow Mauri has been a past winner of the Tour of Spain. Escartin next to go. It was this problem when Escartin was with his team manager Alvaro Pino that caused, or what I would say caused the crash, but there was a crash when he was taking a drink and he was alongside the car, and they've had a big inquiry, and in fact it appears that Alvaro Pino has had a word with the motorcycle people concerned, and they decided, I think, that it was just one of those things that happened, and the strike we had when the motorcyclists decided for half the stage not to cooperate has now fizzled out. It's just, I think, very disappointing that the Tour had that problem. But Kelme have been around a long time. They're probably the oldest sponsoring team in the Tour de France at the moment. In fact, I've got to say they are the oldest team in the Tour de France as regards sponsorship. And Escartin, their best placed rider at the moment, is 6th overall. That's the man you see on your screen now. He's just left. They're leaving at 3-minute intervals. And they founded the Kelme team way back in 1980. So it's some 16 years now that the Kelme team has been riding with various other co-sponsors, and they've had sponsors from Colombia, Poland, Spain and Russia, helping them find money for the team. 1:21.46 for Chave. I've just come up on the headphones, so Chave, not the world's greatest time trialist, much loves it up in the big mountains where he's been a stage victor in the mountains. And Kelme them, who race mostly in Spain and Colombia, sometimes come out and ride the odd classics, with Escartin now their best team. They've got Alvaro Pino, who is the team manager, who's won stages in the Tour of Spain. He won them in 81, 86, 88 when he won a couple, and 89. And he was the man who denied Robert Miller his Volta win in 1986. So Mauri then with the second best time to Chris Boardman. You saw it up on your screens. Can we have the headquarters just outside Barcelona, and their primary sponsor makes shoe and leisure wear, and it sells it all over the world, particularly Eastern and Mediterranean Europe as well. Chris Boardman on the left-hand side of the screen, that's the fastest time we've got so far. And I was saying earlier on why this is going to be an interesting time trial. Normally, when we commentators get towards the last time trial in the Tour de France, I won't say it's a big yawn because there are one or two people battling to change places. Here, Camanzano and Boscatin fighting it out. But because some good time trialists have been outdistanced by the mountain climbers this year, which we haven't seen in the past very often, we're getting some good times coming in early in the time trial. And only, I suppose, Bjorn Ries, who goes off last of all, is what I would say a great time trial. So the people you're seeing leaving the start house now, because all due respect to Luttenberger, who won the Tour of Switzerland as a sort of warm-up for this tour, he wouldn't put himself down as being one of the greatest time trials. Another good little climber here, Pierre Poli, on that unusual Bataglan bicycle. I've had a good look at that one. You can see how like a drain pipe goes down to the seat, a bit like Alex Moulton's bikes he turned out way back in the 1960s, but with somewhat bigger wheels. That looks like the Devil Claudio Chiappucci. He's well down the pan. Claudio riding through in what I think could well be his last Tour de France, because Claudio going to ride for the Amore Vita team, who are not really in the top 20 echelon unless they get some more riders in. So at this point, Katai, who's been entertaining us quite a bit toward the back end, another of the Roslotto riders that started to come good later on in the race when we were going through the massive sun trial. Challenging Mauri at the moment. And I see that Rocco Mauri was 6th on the screen at that point. He went very well towards the back end and got close up, probably second to Chris Boardman at the finish of this 63-kilometre time trial, which at the moment has Boardman in the lead, 1 hour, 18 minutes exactly. Piepoli of the Refin team, who've been slimmed down quite a bit by the sheer pace and the crashes and the cold that we've had in this Tour de France. They've got 6 riders left out the 9 starters. So the order still at the finish. Boardman first, Fondrest is in 3rd spot now, Mauri having gone that bit quicker. So Boardman, Mauri, Fondrest is the order at the end. And here we're looking at one of those specialist mountain climbers, Piepoli, lying 14th overall in general classification, 19 minutes and 31 seconds down on Bjorn Ries on his stage from Bordeaux to Saint-Emilion. Now this fellow could come good towards the back end. He's been hovering in 2nd and 3rd places on some of the time checks we've had earlier on. And there we are, he's challenging at this particular point, the 3rd spot. But he's not going to make it. And off from the start goes one of the surprises of the tour, Laurent Duffield. Certainly, Stephen Roche, who's been co-commentating with me throughout the race and talking to me on the telephone when he's gone out to chat to rider and what have you, he picked Duffield as being, some years ago, a star of the future. Well, Duffield at the moment, we just saw him start. He's 4th overall. Looking at Bo Hamburger now for the TVM team, lying 13th this morning. Maybe unlucky 13th. He's 19 minutes and 18 seconds down on Ries. We had a little look at Piepoli. Piepoli's 19 minutes 31, so there's a very little gap between them. So Hamburger riding to stay away from Piepoli, started this morning with only some 13 seconds between them. Now let's see this time check come up as Berzin has already got 16 seconds faster. Looks like he's going to do it, but the gap isn't. This is closer. Boardman, in fact, is going well because it was 16 seconds the first time check, and is Berzin going to topple Boardman, but by only 4 seconds. Only 4 seconds in it at the moment between Berzin and Boardman. 49 kilometres per hour. So after starting with a rush, Berzin now, the winner of the mountain time trial to Val d'Isère, is now only 4 seconds ahead of Boardman. Concentration by Richard Veronk. Specialist mountain climber. We only got that one little fourth category conk today, although it's 1 kilometre of climbing. The other 62.5 kilometres are virtually flat. But he's certainly going to take that polka dot jersey into Paris tomorrow for a triumphant circuit of the Champs-Élysées. And having got the hat-trick, he's already talking about going for the yellow jersey next year. Well, he's got a very good team round about him. Festina have really been very dominant in the mountains, and if he can improve his time trialling and just control his aggression in the mountains and ride over, preserving something for the flatter parts of the course and the mountain, we may see this man next year challenging for yellow. And then he goes from Bordeaux, and I always joke about Stephen Roche being, there you can see it on your board, by the way, Berzin Boardman, neck him up, just to comment about Veronk the Boardman, so that Stephen Roche is the president of the Veronk Appreciation Society. I forgot to tell Stephen, there's a pub called the Wild Geese in Bordeaux. So for Veronk, out on the road. I'm certain if we watch some of the riders here try to stay inside the top 10 places. Yeah, breaking 1:22. We'll go back to the Veronk story in just a moment. We'll pick up some of the other riders for you here. Young's another man that's come good. And now you see this bike he's riding on, this look frame. That's one that certainly got lots of fill-in round about the main frame. But the one they were using in the time trial, which had an unusual rundown behind the front wheel, it just scooped, they'd filled in just behind the front wheel and went right to the bottom bracket, had been banned. But these two riders on more conventional bicycles, well, Boardman's is, but Berzin's isn't, just separated now on the last time check we had by just 4 seconds. Sorry if I overlap some of the commentary because they dap these pictures up while we're going down a particular direction. Brochard, I said how strong the Festima team were, and this gives you some idea that someone can also time trial. Brochard certainly going to be in the top half dozen at the moment. Sponsored by Festina, the race timed by Festina, and for once in a while he's got a complete hat band now all over his hair. I think he's learnt the fact that as he goes through here, a very good time in third spot, 49.45. Brochard's taken note of Professor Chester Carl out there in the University of California, who claimed that it was something like 1 second per kilometre if you had covering on your head, because your hair in fact is very disruptive and you need some sort of coverage. Even just a cloth cap is better than nothing at all. And Brochard, who normally has that scarf rolled up and round his head as a sort of sweatband, has now put it right over the top of his head. What a character. Now we're getting to second place man over on general classification. We start this morning with Veronk, who's just gone down the road, 4 minutes 25 down on Bjorn Ries. This man here, Jan Ulrich, 3 minutes and 59 seconds down on Bjorn Ries. Somehow I'm not sure that Veronk can close the gap of something like 26 seconds, but he's got to go some now, and he's been spending the whole of the tour defending Bjorn Ries's position on the general classification. And now he's on his own, 63.5 kilometres to go. Another of those unusual cross frames, but this time he has got a top tube to go with it as well. So much activity going on in the various frame shops, the length and breadth of Europe and America. and Taiwan and Japan. At one time, everybody rode a very conventional looking diamond frame, but now everybody's searching for that little bit of extra penetration. And here, Big Mig himself on that unusual sword machine, it was nicknamed. He first designed this one for the hour record attempt, where he tried and failed. And you can see, if you look at his position now, how Miguel Indurain sits a lot more up. His back is sloping backwards, not flat back like some of the other time trialists. And I hope we'll see Rominger later on. We didn't have a chance to see Boardman on the out on the road. Just a quick look at him on the finishing line. But here, Indurain with his feeding bottle stuffed behind his seat there, certainly sitting a much more round back and not cleaving through the air in exactly the same way that people like Rominger and Berzin and Boardman can do. Small front wheel to reduce the amount of wind resistance coming through. That disc wheel at the back whirring and making, they make quite a noise, these monocoque frames, by the way. Well, news coming through that 20 kilometres. Jonker's now gone faster than Boardman. I said he was coming good at the back end of the race, so Berzin, Jonker and Boardman is a position after the 20 kilometre mark. But what is this man going to do? Can you see the Danish flags in the finishing area here? They must have been up all night painting those flags on the finish straight and covering Bjorn Riis's name as far as the eye can see. The flags are everywhere. And when they finished their applause today, all those Danish supporters, if they're not on holiday down in Bordeaux, if they want to go to Paris, they've got to hammer all the way up to Paris to see this man on a ceremonial lap of honour, or 8 laps of honour, on the Champs-Élysées tomorrow. Who would have thought that amongst the gathering of such talent in the Tour de France this year, men who put the whole season around the Tour de France, people like Rominger, Alano and Berzin, another man who kept quiet, had trained, you hardly saw much of him, but when the chips were down, he just showed his sheer dominance and supreme strength, particularly on the stage into Sestriere, that shortened stage, but he romped away from everybody else, grabbed the yellow jersey, and since then he's not only had it through normal defence, he has attacked to keep the jersey, and he goes away now. To the applause of the crowd, the last man to go on this 63.5 kilometre 20th stage of the Tour de France. One more day to go from Palaiseau on the outskirts of Paris to curl back into the centre of the city. And as they turn their backs on Bordeaux, the great big wine city, the time checks are coming in, which shows now that Indurain is the fastest at the 24 kilometre mark. 29.29, Berzin second, Jonker third. The master of time trialling, he was really pushed in the, let's say, the flatter time trial last year, because the one from Bourg de Maurice to Val d'Isère was a mountain one when he finished in 5th spot. But we'll look forward to the battle between Miguel Indurain and Bjorn Riis. Who will win the stage today? Well, stay with Eurosport to find out. That's the position after 24 kilometres on this stage, the time trial between Bordeaux and Saint-Émilion. And here we're looking at Rominger for the first time on our screens. Tony Rominger lying 5th at that time check, still with that very sore right knee of his, trying hard to try and do as well as possible in this time trial, because he knows Bordeaux well. It's Bordeaux where he broke the hour record, covering 55 kilometres in the hour, and we all stood there trying to commentate. We watched him go round and round like a superb machine. And Rominger, it was that shocked everybody to get that hour record, a record which had been held by Aubry, held by Boardman. 5 kilometres to go to the wine town of Saint-Émilion. We started out in Bordeaux, which was founded nearly 2,000 years ago between the rivers and the vineyards. I suppose you could say a child of Bacchus and Neptune. a place which has been very much connected to England when Eleanor of Aquitaine married Henry Plantagenet, bringing England and Aquitaine together for 3 long centuries. It was ended in the Battle of Castellon, and later on, though, Louis XI had the great sense to link Bordeaux back with England through its free trading, and it's been that way ever since. And the Englishman, Chris Boardman, at the finish, already setting the fastest time of 1:18.00, but he's been toppled to 4th spot at the 24-kilometre point by Indurain, Berzin, Jonker. Chris in 4th spot, and in 5th is Rominger. When the riders get to Saint-Emilion, they're going to be given a nice bottle of wine tomorrow to take with them on the train up to, or they're going to give it them on the train tomorrow when they go off to Paris, just to celebrate this great wine-growing area. Without that, of course, because when you're in Bordeaux, they've got some lovely oysters, and you can team oysters with fruity graves, wine, foie gras with a golden-hued sauterne, or a nice lamprey eel with a lovely red vintage. So great place for gastronomical delights. But as far as the riders are concerned, the last big burst on the banjo when they can resolve their positions overall, because tomorrow on the sweep into the Champs-Élysées, it's usually a day for the sprinters, and now old scores have to be settled. I was saying about the different riding position here. You can see how flat-backed Rominger is, how well tucked in his position, which gives him a good penetration of the air. Superb time trialist, also good, clever mountain rider as well. He's got that ability to do everything except, of course, sprint, which is a speciality only for a few. So Rominger then down the road ahead of Rees. Last man on the road, Rees. Last year in the time trial from Heat to Serang, that was 54 kilometres in all. This man we're looking at now, Bjorn Rees, surprised a lot of people. He started in 4th spot at the kilometre 13 when the time checks came in. Indurain was in the lead ahead of Berzin, Rominger with Rees 4th. This is last year's Huy Serang time trial on the 8th of July 1995. By the time we got to 22-kilometre mark, Rees had moved into 2nd. He stayed there until 49 kilometres when he actually was ahead of Indurain. So further down the road, whilst these other riders are coming in here, Lelys looks like doing quite a reasonable time. Remember, the fastest so far, top left-hand side of your screen, behind the Eurosport Live sign. By the way, sorry about that. Eurosport Live is covering up Chris Boardman's time. So Chris Boardman still the fastest, 1:18. The effort is showing on the faces of these riders. Often the final time trial, except for maybe a handful of riders, is just a ride into the finish. But a lot of scores to be settled still today. It's been a tremendous Tour de France, and we can always look back on different tours and say that was one of the best. But the way in which this man has dominated the race and has been under attack from time to time by others, but misfortune has also taken its toll. And there we are, the time then at the third of the time checks, 52 kilometres. Chris Boorman, Berzin has dropped back 11 seconds. I said, in fact, that Boorman went better toward the back end. So now then, Boorman, Berzin and Brochard, but a lot of fast talent yet to come. Olano is also a very useful time trialist. He was second in the World Championships behind Indurain last year, and in the Tour of Spain last year, over 41 kilometres on the 7th stage. Olano was the fastest at the first time check, 13.6. 22 kilometres, he dropped to second behind, yes, guess who? Bjorn Ries. And by the time they came to the 41 kilometre point, though, Olano had gone into the lead, and he won the stage 47 minutes 37 seconds ahead of Jalabert, Zuller, Brunel, Bartoli and Bjorn Ries. Dropped back to a sixth spot, so Ries took a bit of pacing, dying towards the end of that time trial stage last year in the Tour of Spain. And again, we had another time trial last year in the Tour of Spain. On the 20th stage, Olano romped right the way through. Victor all the way, never headed. Zuller coming in here, well, he's battling to stay in the top 10 places. Tall, lanky fella. Not quite the tucked down position you expect from some of these time trial specialists, but he's done his best to stay in the top 10 spot at the moment. It looks like he'll do it, but there's so much fast talent out on the road that Zuller could well drop out of the frame when we see Rominger, Olano, Berzin, Jonker, Indurain, etc. coming down here. Still Chris Boorman, top left-hand side of the screen, 1:18, the fastest time to date. Zuller lying 25th on general classification overall. Has now finished. We're back out on the road with Olano. It's often been mentioned that the rainbow jersey of world champion has been a kiss of death for the aims and ambitions of riders in the season following. But Olano, I think, has defended that jersey as hard as he can do. He's had his misfortunes in the Tour, unable to hold the pace in the mountains. He was riding hard, he took the pink jersey in the Tour of Italy, and then finally lost it and finished second overall, but he really has done extremely well this year. A nice look at that very special cockpit, I might call it, I suppose, where he's got his hands at the moment and elbows. That was designed specially for Tony Rominger in the hour record attempt, though of course they didn't have brake levers and things hanging off it, but that very special ovalised aluminium airfoil of the handlebar and the very narrow aluminium struts going forward to get the rider. You can see how tucked in he is at the moment, how flat-backed he is, the world champion here. Time checks showing he's not really in contention for a top place at the moment, but anything can happen. Hamburger flicking the gear change. He's actually got his gear changes on the brake levers on the right-hand and left-hand side. A lot of the top time trialists who are looking for a good ride have the gear changes right up on the front end of the triathlon bars. But here, Hamburger preferring just to have the flat upturned type of bars, changes gear, goes back into the centre, tucks himself in. Ridden a very good race again this year. One of the marauding CVM riders. Start this morning, 13th place, 19 minutes and 18 seconds down. Luc Leblanc, start this morning in 8th spot, 8 minutes and 1 second down. There's quite a gap between Leblanc and Olano, by the way. This morning on the start, there was, 3 minutes and 11 seconds. And look, under the 63 kilometres, should just about be able to hold on to his 8th spot, but he's not the world's greatest time trial. You see his position here, his rocking of his body. He's had some problems which have been operated upon in his back. He's been sitting rather sideways on the saddle. He couldn't get the power down equally on both of his legs. So the poor chap, apart from, I say, his sponsor taking the money out of the team last year, he had to have an operation, so he never really defended his rainbow jersey last year, and now he's switched to the Pulte team. Been climbing extremely well, but really time trialling has not been his forte, and that's the problem for many of these specialist mountain climbers. This year the word was that the Tour was set for the mountain climbers to put pressure on Indurain, and of course the man who's climbed with the best has been Bjorn Ries. I spoke to Luc Leblanc when they announced the Tour route last, what was it, November, and he said that if he got back into fitness, it certainly looked like a course that would suit him, with so many mountaintop finishes and a hard ride through the Pyrenees at the back end of the race. And had it not been for those accidents, then he could have been much further up the general classification. And we'll wait with bated breath to see when they decide the Tour de France announced next year's course, whether it's likely to be equally mountainous. Well, at 40 kilometres, Jonker now has the second best time coming in, so he certainly has come good towards the back end of the race. But Chris Boardman battling then to hold that position, fastest so far. Even at 52 Ks, Berzin dropped 11 seconds back. Let's see what this one is. This was the time where Berzin was ahead of Boardman by 4 seconds, and Boardman's time 49.30. Oh, look at Indurain here. He's decimating it. He's knocking hell out of it now. Oh, Indurain coming up here, and Indurain is going to knock hell out of Berzin's time, 49.26, and there he is, 45 seconds ahead. The man is back with a bang. And you can see on his face that mask, which is a smile, as well as one showing the effort he's putting into it. Indurain has taken the lead convincingly. What a recovery. There'll be loads of people. Somebody said that their mother, I forget who it was now, was actually crying and had to switch the television set off when Indurain faltered on the stage up into Les Arcs, when he just couldn't hold the pace. And now I hope there'll be joy on the Indurain supporters that he's riding so strongly. What a finish to the Tour we've got this year. Still Chris Boardman in the lead. Ekimov just moving into second place, 1:19.37. And after Ekimov has finished, Laurent Madouas has been overtaken by Ekimov. Frenchman again coming good towards the back end of the Tour, showing the Motorola colours, a team that was decimated when Armstrong retired. But coming through the heat haze is this superb time trial Evenji Berzin, winner of the Tour of Italy a couple of years ago. He tried to get the Tour of Italy this year, couldn't get it, so he just eased back a bit to ride for victory in the Tour de France. Is he going to beat Chris Boardman's time? He was ahead of Chris at the first time check. He was only 6 seconds adrift at the head at the second time check. Then he dropped 11 seconds back, and he's not going to make it. So still at the moment, then Chris Boardman there, 1:18 is in the lead. Berzin coming through now, looks like he's going to take second spot, but that just shows the strength of Chris Boardman over the distance, and he has come through the mountains, has Chris, in fine style to beat this superb time trial Berzin, who took the first mountain time trial of the Tour de France this year, and he's not going to beat Chris. He goes into second spot, 1:18.27. What a scalp for Chris Boardman to grab this man, past winner of the Tour of Italy, winner this year of the time trial stage from Bourg-Saint-Maurice to Val d'Isère. On that day, Boardman was trounced back into 8th spot, 2 minutes 30 seconds down, and now he's got revenge on Evenji Berzin. Ooh, there is a turn-up for the books. 1 second, Duffield ahead of Indurain. Now, Boardman started slowly. You see down there, he's in 8th spot, 35 seconds down. We've already seen that Berzin, who was ahead of Boardman, has towards the end faded. So that first time check is certainly a sort of indicator. And to think that Duffield has gone that fast early on, but don't forget time trialing. I know loads of you people out there back in Great Britain, if you're watching it live on Saturday afternoon, good afternoon to you, wherever you are, at home, in one of the local public houses. Hello to all you people there switched on, watching the sport on Eurosport, bringing you the best of the Olympics, and now the best, the penultimate day in the Tour de France. Time trialists across the whole length and breadth of Great Britain will know what it's like to judge your output to perfection, and we're looking at the world's best doing just that. Rominger was looking for a Tour de France victory to go with his successes in the Tour of Spain and the Tour of Italy. But he'll have to come back next year if he's going to do anything about it. Ugrimov, no world's greatest time trialist here, you can see. But still, just 33 seconds down at that stage on that unusual bicycle with that bent down tube. Mr. Fondres has certainly been coming up with some unusual ideas in the workshop. You see how low the top tube is to have the seat pin sticking a long way out, all done to minimise wind resistance. But Ugrimov is not one of the world's greatest time trialists, but we're looking at a very, very interesting battle between people who really have a few scores to settle today on the Tour de France. Brochard's been going quickly, and look at this one now. He's going to be just outside Boardman's time. Can he move into third spot? Festina today really want to put 1, 2 and 3 men. They've already got Duffield down the road at 24 kilometres the fastest. They want to take over the team championship here, and they've got to do a good time trial today, because tomorrow there won't be much in it on the Tour de France finish in the Champs-Élysées. So Brochard here is going to finish with a good time, 1:18.28. So Brochard is in third spot. And the way that down the road Dufield's going,